welcome to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. I'm your host, Louis Padian. I hope that you're doing well and are enjoying the podcast and the topics we've covered so far. These podcasts are released every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so be sure to subscribe wherever you are listening to be kept up to date.
So today we're going to be covering how to undo your Crazes weight or even that cycle in the next few days. You'll start seeing decline once you start eating normally. That's important. That's why this is again day to day. Gradually increasing. Come on, enjoying the gym or going to class. Slow motion, slow exercise as well. So sleep.
So today we're going to be covering one of the hot topics around this time of year, and that is detox diets. And if you followed me for a long period of time, you know that I've probably got a differing opinion to a lot of people. But this will probably be part of another episode in the future that I haven't planned yet, but just thinking about it now probably needs a almost like sister or brother episode where we look at the claims and misinformations and how to spot people who are misleading you or misinformed. But for today, we're going to stick on track with just detox diets. So why are they appealing? Well, they've been appealing for a long time because of the promises that they make. They always sound too good to be true. They promise amazing results with little to no effort, and actually there's not a huge amount of evidence to support that. But they'll also use language like eliminating toxins. They will talk about harmful products that we have in our day-to-day food, which isn't necessarily true, or they'll tell half-truths or white lies, as I say it, where they will come up with phrases that technically might be true, but in the grand scheme of things aren't important. And in my opinion, detox diets are one of the things, as someone who's done them in the past myself, before I started doing my nutrition masters and become a personal trainer, there's so many problems with them that we'll discuss now. And all of this stuff that I found was in one of the really good research papers that I've looked at that was published a couple of years ago. So there's a good study, as I've mentioned, by two authors called Klein and Klein from 2020. And they really investigated and had a look at, is there any evidence behind any of these detox diets? And they found some really interesting things that hopefully, if you're considering detox diets this time of year or in the future, will remind you, or you'll be able to think about this and go, actually, these sort of things. So they reviewed 35 popular detox products and found pretty alarming results. First one was completely unregulated. 57% of the products contained unapproved ingredients, raising concerns about their safety and efficacy. And yet, a lot of these products might have been sold on the fact that the food that we eat day to day might have toxins in or might be unsafe. And actually, they are completely unregulated and will often claim to be healthier, more natural, or less chemicals, less toxins, when often some of the products in there are completely unregulated. Second of all, they were dangerous potentially, that some of the products in there may interact with medications that people are on, and they will say it on the back of it potentially, and you can't always guarantee that, or you can't always rely on that, but there may be products in them that interact with certain medications that you might be on or other people might be on. So it is best to obviously do things that are more evidence-based, that have solid research and backing behind them, and not necessarily products off the shelves or over the counter or on the internet that you aren't really sure what's in them. I've read papers in the past about products that people buy over the internet, and some of them contain nothing or barely anything that's mentioned on the label, plus loads of other things as well. So being aware of the dangers potentially of buying these products is definitely something to remember. Number 3 was there was a lack of evidence. So only 14% of the products had any scientific evidence supporting their detox claims. A lot of these products will make ridiculous claims, and they are really hard to challenge. And often we talk about misinformation is halfway around the world before information or correct information has even got out of bed. It's so easy to make up these claims, and it's so much harder to refute them, to almost disprove them. And by the time that you've challenged some of these companies about some of the products or the claims that they've made, you won't be heard, they won't be bothered, or they'll just ignore you completely. So challenging and thinking critically that if a product provides a statistic, if they provide a claim, but don't provide any evidence of that, then you can ignore it. You have full permission to ignore it. You don't need to ask for permission to, or you don't need to ask for the further information around it. That if they're not willing to provide you the goods from the get-go, and a lot of products on the market in regards to stuff that's backed will provide evidence to the public, or will on their websites and things like that provide links to research papers, which again, it's something that I do but not necessarily everyone else does. So again, some of these claims, or a lot of them, the vast majority of them, only 14%, so 85%, 86% of them were completely unfound or didn't have any backing to any of the claims they made. And when we have a look at what the actual impacts of detox diets, if you undertake them, are, again, it can be really, really alarming to have a look at that as well. So some of them, when we talk about detox diets, we talk about things that you potentially do for 12, 14, maybe even 20 plus days. They rarely are nutritionally complete meals or nutritionally complete diets, and they may end up with people having deficiencies. I've seen people go on very, very low calorie diets with no supplementary support or guidance around it, and things like their hair falling out, their skin and their nails breaking really easily, them feeling really, really low, they're having low vitamin D, low iron intakes, things like that over a long period of time can have really, really serious health implications. So being aware of that actually a lot of these diets can be really unhealthy despite their health claims is so important to remember. That often they will provide, or they'll say things about regular diets are unhealthy, X, Y, Z, when actually if you critically look at their structure in their diet and remove all their marketing and claims around it, actually they're a lot unhealthier than other diets, sort of having one only food group or cutting out other food groups completely, starving yourself for long periods or going on very low calorie diets aren't sustainable habits that we're looking for in the long term. Also, people might have digestive issues, people might have constipation or diarrhea, depending on what you're having, but I've seen products that do this. So for example, ones might be a 7-day detox and you're having something like a shot of their proprietary drink, maybe something like an aloe vera mix or whatever. And for some people that might cause diarrhea, which on the scales, when we're looking at weight loss and not necessarily fat loss, people can lose a phenomenal amount of weight just from being really dehydrated. It's incredible, but they'll use that as a marketing claim, and people will not think about that critically. They'll get carried away with only using that one piece of measure. They'll feel terrible, they'll be low on energy, they won't be sleeping well, they'll be hating the diet that they're on. But because the scale weight's moved down, which because they're dehydrated, they'll think, right, this is the right thing to do. And when they start eating regularly again afterwards, they blame themselves, the weight comes back on, and they think, it's all my fault, but when I did that detox, it worked. When actually the detox was never meant to work long term, and actually sort of fooled you into thinking that it did. And this is where we find the things like the yo-yo effect, where people will go on a cycle where they restrict over for as long as they can, almost burn out on that willpower, on their willpower battery, we should say, that people get to a point where they can't hack it anymore, where they can't deal with this restrictive lifestyle diet, however you want to look at it, and they revert back to types, which means that they go back to their old habits, their old ways, potentially have a bit of a binge because they've been so restricted for a long period of time, gain back the weight that they've lost during that time, maybe some more, and then they'll feel guilty, shameful of the fact that they've regained their weight, that it's all down to it's their fault that they've not been able to lose weight. They can't do this long term. Potentially their weight might increase again, or they'll jump onto another restrictive diet and repeat that cycle. And that's something that we need to address if you feel like you're in that cycle of constantly trying to lose weight, regaining it and feeling a bit out of control, then the only way that you feel that you can gain control is lose weight, then reach out to me. There's definitely a different way where we can work on your relationship with food, your relationship with your weight, relationship with your body and yourself, where you don't have to be in that cycle of either restricting and burning yourself out or regaining the weight and feeling guilty, ashamed, and then starting the cycle again. So what should you do instead? Hopefully I've explained that a lot of the detox diets are unregulated, potentially dangerous. They don't have any of these claims, they can't back up any of these claims, for example, and potentially there might be some health related risks associated with them, or at least some short-term risks around sort of digestive issues or long-term issues around yo-yo dieting or nutritional deficiencies. But what should you do instead? And obviously I'm not here to tell you what to do, I'm here to help you decide, and that's what the Balanced Approach podcast is all about. It's about giving you the information, giving you the support, and offering you the options available to you, and actually you finding and figuring out what's best for you, because there's no one size fits all. But just quickly whiz through them. Predominantly a diet of whole foods is always going to be helpful, more nutritious, more filling, less calories potentially, but also having that potentially 80-20 split of foods for the body, 80% foods for the soul, foods that you really enjoy, potentially more calorie dense, less nutritious potentially, but again, finding that balance that's right for you. Number 2, hydration, so ensuring that you're hydrated. Again, being more hydrated, consistently hydrated as well, ensures that if it sort of masks, sort of allows you to not be fooled by dehydration as a tactic for weight loss, so which detox diets massively rely upon. Number 3 is move your body. Again, physical activity is wonderful in so many ways, and in any way that you enjoy or that you can. So I'm not here to say you should be doing gym work, you should be doing 3 rep maxes in the gym 4 times a week. Actually, it's far from it. People doing whatever exercise they enjoy. Enjoyment is a massive part of it, because it means that you're probably going to do it more often. It's going to feel less of an effort, and you'll find ways to do it more often, which means that actually you'll be moving more. People who move more tend to have better health outcomes, tend to be happier, tend to manage their weight a bit better. And again, that pairs with people with better diets, with better sleep, better relationships with others, potentially better relationships with food, their own body. All these things are linked to potentially finding an activity that you enjoy and doing it more often. Number 4 is listen to your body, manage your stress, ensure that you get enough sleep, and again, ensuring that you're looking after yourself in the best way possibly, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, financially. All these aspects of holistic health come into play. Last of all, I always talk about this, and I think it's such an important part that people missing out is find a tribe, find a community that has shared values and goals, one that you potentially aspire to join, one that you feel is really positive and supportive, and stepping away from this detox sort of restrictive diet, binge culture, however you want to phrase it. Find a community of people who you think, actually, that's a lifestyle I can see myself living long term, one that I think I've shared values with, shared habits, or want to aspire to do those habits regularly, and something that I can see myself not just doing for 10, 12, 28 days, but years, months, however long, but looking at the long-term mindset. And that's why I've created Unwrap Healthy Habits. If you want to join, link is in my bio, but if it's not there, obviously just drop me a DM and I can add you straight into it. It's a free community where we want to get people healthier, happier, living better day to day, focusing on what sort of things we can do, and not that it's not a diet, but actually a community of like-minded people who want to ditch the yo-yo diet and want to live healthier, happier, long lives. So if that sounds like something you want to do, just drop me a DM, follow the link in my bio or the link in this episode, and I'll add you there. But hopefully this episode has covered detox diets, why they're so appealing, but also potential risks and dangers around them, and actually what the science says where they haven't really got anything to back them up, but yet the marketing claims and things like that will still sell. And then also a plan of action around whole foods, managing your stress, staying hydrated, listening to your body, being more active, and joining a community where all those things are common shared values, such as Unwrap Your Healthy Habits. It's definitely the way to go into the new year and beyond. So I've enjoyed talking to you today. Make sure you drop me a DM if you need anything else at all, and I shall speak to you soon.
So thank you very much for watching or listening to today's episode of the Balanced Approach podcast. If you'd like access to the free resources mentioned in this podcast, then just drop me a DM on Instagram at Louis Padian Nutrition. If you would be interested in getting healthier and happier in the new year, remember to join the waiting list by clicking the link below. It will be open from Boxing Day and will help you unwrap healthy habits into the new year.